You're listening to The Building Code, your guide to a better way to run your business. I'm Tom Houghton.
I'm Paul Worth.
And joining us today, the Zen Builder is on the airwaves with us, Ed Earl. Welcome to the show.
Thanks, guys. I'm happy to be here.
We're happy to have you, and we're feeling very Zen-like right now.
You're feeling very calm?
I am.
Good.
I am too. I'm in the presence of calmness. How does one get the name the Zen Builder? Let's start there, Ed.
Well, that's a good question, Paul. So it kind of comes from a couple of different sources. I have been a practitioner of Zen Buddhism for about 20 years. I've studied under a Zen master named Thich Nhat Hanh. And but in addition to that, I was actually also the construction project manager for the construction of a nunnery at the local Buddhist monastery, Deer Park Monastery here in San Diego. That's one of the monasteries run by Thich Nhat Hanh. So I had the unique opportunity to spend like 2 or 3 years with these monastics, guiding them through this construction process. And it was really enlightening for me to see how they handled all of the anxiety and stress and everything that's associated with a construction project. And through that, I really learned how to incorporate those concepts into not only my own business of construction project management, but in my role as a business coach to contractors and as a public speaker. And like this year at IBS, my presentation was on how to eliminate drama with homeowners, build trust, and reduce conflict in your construction projects.
That all sounds like a win for everybody.
Yeah, every contractor we talk to says, references that they're like a therapist if they're building for a couple. And so there's a lot of stress. There's a lot of opportunity for people to get crossways with each other while they're stressed out. So, I mean, do you have your people that you work for and with? Do they all sit down with you and go through like a Buddhist session to start? Just really set the time. Set the time.
No, I mean it's funny because it's not really anything that formal. It actually was with the monastery project, but in general, it's not. It's really just more of an approach, and it's really the ideas of like one of the things that we were just talking. I just got off a call with one of our contractor coaching clients, and having an issue with a difficult client, and it's really getting them from the position of judgment to one of compassion, and really recognizing that these homeowners are stressed out. I mean, they're the biggest decision of their life. They're making these decisions. And a lot of times they act in ways that may seem combative or even abusive, but it's because of the stress of what they have. And if the contractor can kind of help to see that from a more compassionate standpoint and not be so judgmental, it really helps to make the process move along much more smoothly.
I love that. We all need a little more compassion in our lives.
Yeah. So what... You don't have to give it all away, but what would you say to a contractor that here's how you become more compassionate? What are some steps, tactics they can do?
Yeah. Well, it's really in understanding the homeowner's perspective and recognizing, as a construction professional, we take a lot of things for granted. And the homeowners don't realize that. And, one of the things is that the purchasing decision for today is so different, with online purchasing. People are so used to being able to buy something, have it shipped to their house instantaneously, know exactly what it's going to cost, know exactly what they're getting. I mean, all of that is the exact opposite of how a home construction project goes down. Mm-hmm. And so I think it's really made those expectations a lot more difficult because of that. So, and, and a contractor just kind of goes, well, that's obvious. Well, no, your homeowner doesn't realize that. They don't realize that they're buying a process, not a product. And so that's part of what it takes, and really understanding that from a homeowner's perspective.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, construction is a messy process. There's a lot of moving parts to it, and there's a lot of stress that can go along with that. But you yourself, sitting here as we're talking to you, seem very relaxed. And I'm sure there's probably a lot of listeners who would think, like, how can I be as relaxed as you are? As you're seeming, I guess. I don't know, maybe you're not really relaxed, but I don't know. Can you give some tips? Yeah.
Yeah, no, I think part of it is, I mean, look, it's a practice that it's part of my daily practice. I mean, I meditate for 30 minutes every morning, first thing in the morning, and And, I've done obviously a lot of studying under my Zen master. And so that all comes as part of that. But there are things that contractors can do and that we coach our clients on to really help them to be, the relaxed part of it comes from reducing the stress. And the stress reduction comes from using tools and techniques like understanding the homeowner's perspective. And at the show this year, I talked about the 4 agreements, which is a book by Don Miguel Ruiz, and really incorporating those 4 agreements into a contractor's daily practice and those kinds of things.
Okay.
So,
for those listeners who maybe don't know who you are, can you give us a little more background on kind of what your day-to-day looks like?
Yeah, for sure. So I've got 2 different businesses. The first one is that I am one of 3 partners in a relatively newly formed business called Residential Contractor Services Group. And so we are a company providing an umbrella of services to residential contractors, mostly focused around business coaching. And so my 2 other partners are Paul Sanneman and David Luperger. And between the 3 of us, we've got over about 60 years of experience in the construction industry. And so we work with about 40 or so residential contractors nationwide, both providing business coaching services as well as the other services that we provide in RCSG include a recruiting service and a marketing services. David and I do public speaking. David also has a business continuation service. So it's just a whole umbrella of services that we provide to contractors. So that's kind of the first business. And then for the last 20 years, I've run a construction project management business here in San Diego. And I work as an owner's rep. So hopefully many of your listeners understand what an owner's rep is, right? So I'm hired by homeowners that are building large estate homes, and I help them to put their team together, select their architect, contractor, interior designer, and then manage that whole process. So over the last 20 years, I've done everything from a $27 million house to a safari camp in Botswana to a historical rebuild in Monterey, California, just a whole variety of different projects and working with lots of different types of clients as well.
That's quite the portfolio there.
Well, let's take it back even further. What'd you do before the 20 years and you started your client rep business?
Yeah. So, well, I actually have an MBA from Stanford. And so, Dan Houghton.
I didn't know that. That felt like I threw you a softball. I had an MBA from Stanford. Thank you, Paul. Check. So, I didn't know that. So,
it's funny. It's funny, Paul, because, I've appeared on the panel with Dan Houghton, for the last 5 years or so. Mm-hmm. And whenever Dan introduces me, he always says, now this is Ed Earl, probably the only person here at the show that has an MBA from Stanford.
So, yeah, that's right.
I started really on the commercial side. I had done some commercial development in Los Angeles where I grew up before business school. And then after business school, I worked for a large commercial developer here in San Diego. And then after doing commercial construction for about, 10 years, then I got in on the residential side. And I've been doing pretty much residential work for the last 20 years.
That's great. That's so interesting to grow up in the LA area and do commercial because it's got to be so much different than probably every other city minus like 4 or 5 of them, commercially.
Yeah.
And same thing with residential too. What's unique about where your specific clientele is obviously higher end, but also where you build the residential building in your price range is very similar to commercial building in a lot of ways.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah, and that's exactly right. And that's where a lot of what I learned in the systems and systematic approach to building houses. I mean, when you're building a 25,000 square foot house, it's got like a commercial sized HVAC system, and and all the wiring and everything that goes into it with all the home controls and automation. It is like building a small office building.
Yeah, makes sense.
Let's pivot the conversation a little bit because we know that you've got some great advice that we'd love the listeners to hear. And you've kind of coined these into 3 mortal sins that all contractors make. Is that right?
Right.
Yeah.
That's right.
Very fire and brimstone.
It's prepare.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So that's kind of from my, I was born and raised Catholic. I went to Catholic school for 12 years. So that's kind of coming from that side. But
it's your Old Testament side.
It's kind of it's a little bit of it's an attention grabber. But the 3 mortal sins, these are the things that we in our work with all of our contractors that we're working with nationwide, we find these are 3 things that many contractors that they commit, and they're kind of based on what we call the three of our commandments. And unlike the biblical commandments, which are thou shalt not, ours are thou shalt always. So the first one is thou shalt always be marketing and selling.
Ooh, that's
and
good.
That's right, and that's something that contractors are oftentimes don't do. And what they don't realize is that their construction business is really a marketing business. We tell our clients Nike is a marketing business that sells tennis shoes. And, every business is basically a marketing business. I mean, Buildertrend is a marketing business that sells, software. And a contracting business is no different than that. And recognizing, too, that there are many different forms of marketing, especially in today's world, right? And for a while, I think that the jury was kind of out on social media and whether that was really going to be an effective tool for residential contractors. But I think a lot of people, including my other panel mate this year, Nick Schiffer, has proven that with a really comprehensive social media campaign, it can make a big difference. And it may not directly impact and lead to leads for contractors, but definitely it impacts the image that they build and the overall marketing program that they're creating.
Absolutely.
So,
we love marketing.
Yeah, for sure.
Right?
Well,
and selling.
And the guests we've had, like Matt from Emergent and Nick from NS Builders, it does 100%
Make a difference.
And create leads for them too. So over half the leads they get is from their social media channel. Now they have huge followings because they've been really hard working at it for the last 4 or 5 years, and they've got a great content, as Ed said. So, but yeah, you just got to start doing it, and you'll see the effects.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's also about building brand as well.
Mm-hmm.
It's, like we say, why does Coke advertise? Well, it's all about building brand. And for if a contractor really wants to develop and be able to be in a competitive advantage in their market, they have to have a unique and distinguished brand from their competition and not just try to compete on price. It's contractors competing on price that's not a long-term viable strategy.
Yeah. It also just hurts the entire market. Everybody starts undercutting everybody else, and then nobody's, there's no value there anymore.
Right. And I think another thing, too, we've had many of our clients will hire marketing companies, and they don't really understand the unique characteristics and needs of a residential construction company. And that's one of the reasons why with RCSG, we've created our own kind of marketing services for people specifically where we focus exclusively on residential contractors.
That's smart.
So thou shalt always be marketing and selling.
Yep.
That's the first commandment. The second commandment is thou shalt always be recruiting good people.
Okay.
So this is another thing that contractors are not doing all the time, and that's always recruiting people for their companies. And, if you wait until your top project manager quits or gets, leaves on you, it's too late.
Mm-hmm.
And again, we tell our coaching clients, it's like a football team. I mean, no good football team has just one quarterback, right? You've got the second string quarterback, the third string quarterback. You're training those people. They're out on the field working with your star quarterback, learning and waiting for their time to get into that position. Well, it's the same way with a construction company. You have project managers, superintendents, various people in various levels, and you always have to be hiring to fill those people in those ranks. And if you wait until the last minute until your office manager quits or your superintendent quits, it's too late. So,
especially in the climate we're in, right, with the labor shortage and less young people getting into the skilled trades in our industry, it's always more important. You find somebody out there, or you see somebody, you grab them, find a spot for them. Again, I don't want to bring up Nick, but Nick from Zen Builders talks about it all the time. He may not even financially be able to afford somebody, but when he finds talent, he just says, "Come on board. We'll figure it out financially," because he knows it's just going to benefit his business.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, another thing, too, we'll just stick on Nick for a second as well, because I listened to his podcast with you guys, is that another great benefit of the social media, the social marketing that he's doing, is that he's building this desire for people to want to come and work for Zen Builders. And so that's another great benefit of having a robust, social media campaign. It's not just about marketing, but it also affects that second component of recruiting.
Absolutely. So this second commandment, Ed, would you apply that equally to subcontractors and trades that you run into throughout your year as well? Because same thing applies, right? Your drywall guy that you love may not always be there. Might as well have 2 or 3 on deck.
Absolutely. You always need, and we go through with our clients, and we'll make a list and say, okay, how many drywallers do you have? How many framers do you have? How many plumbers? And you should have, you've got to have some bench strength, and you should have, 2 or 3 trades in each of your trades. You should have 2 or 3 subs. So
it makes sense.
It's good stuff. Number 3.
Another thing too, Paul, you had mentioned that, how in today's market it's hard to find people, and that's true. And what we find is, depending on the market, one of these first 2 components can undermine a construction company. In good times, like where we are right now, a construction company can go out of business because they're not hiring enough people.
Right.
And in bad times, a construction company can go out of business because they're not doing enough marketing to getting business. So really, whether it's in strong times or bad times, you need to be doing both of those things all of the time.
That's smart. Best way to protect your business right there.
Yeah.
And number 3.
So, all right. So the third commandment is, thou shalt always be adopting new technology.
Ooh.
I like this one, Tom.
Yeah.
Right?
You like
This one relates. We really like this one, I think.
Continue.
You like this one?
Yeah.
This one kind of hits home for you guys, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
So, the fact of the matter is, and we've seen this after all of our decades of working with contractors are luddites. They just are very slow to adopt new technology. And Paul Sandeman tells the story, because he's been at this longer than me. Back in the day with the pagers, like, he would try to get contractors to use pagers. And then it was hard to get them to use cell phones. And, I remember, I don't know, what was it, maybe 10 years ago, I showed up on a job site with a Trio. You guys, are you old enough to remember a Trio?
Yeah, absolutely.
Right? Those glorified Palm Pilots?
Exactly, yeah.
And I remember showing up with a builder, and I was like, hey, Brian, check out this new phone. I can actually send and receive emails from the job site. I don't have to, go back, into my office or on my laptop. And he just looked at me, he's like, what a stupid idea, Ed. Like, who would ever want to send an email from the job site? Like, that just ruins my day. I don't want to deal with that stuff while I'm out here. So it's just, and really the first advice that we give when we take on a new coaching client is, the first question we ask them is, do you have a cloud-based construction management system? And if they don't, we say, okay, well, you're getting one. So that's the first thing we're going to work with you on is getting on a cloud-based construction management system. So, 5-6 years ago when I first started looking at systems, and I actually use 3 different, I have to kind of be versed in all of them. So I actually use 3 different systems in my construction project management. But back then, I was really the only guy doing that. And when I give these presentations at the Builder Show and get a show of hands, maybe 1 out of every 3 or 4 people would raise their hands. Now, I think this year, we're starting to reach critical mass. This year I felt like at least half of the audience is using a cloud-based construction management system. And But I still really see, one of the biggest advantages, I think, is the marketing. And, if a contractor's going in to make a presentation and they pull out their iPad or their tablet and, show them how they're using Buildertrend and the features they're using, there's a very good chance that they're going to be the only person that's using that platform. And that, I'm telling you, makes a big difference for my homeowners I know that I work with.
Yeah, we try to really stress leveraging like our owner portal. That's what we call it, for the customers. So when you're having that meeting,
right.
that initial meeting, you can actually pull that up and show them, look, this is your dashboard that you're going to see the updates on the job site. Our daily logs are going to be here and our schedule is here. And this is how you can keep track of everything. And I really think there's a huge opportunity for our market to use that as a marketing tool. They just kind of think it's like, oh, it's just a side feature of Buildertrend, where it's like, no, this is actually how you can close deals by giving those clients that commitment to this and that they can be a part of the process.
Yeah, exactly right, Tom. Yeah, that's, I think, one of the biggest advantages of using Buildertrend is that in that marketing tool. And I know, as an owner's rep, I'll come in with Buildertrend and use it. The contractor isn't even using it. So that's all I use is that owner's portal. I'm posting photos, I'm doing a schedule and storing all the documents and doing job logs. And that's it. I'm not issuing, the contractor's kind of doing their own accounting, so I'm not issuing change orders and all that. But just using that owner portal portion of it is such a powerful tool for my clients.
Yeah. Again, obviously having the marketing background that I have, I look at that monthly fee that we charge and I go, you could just write that off as marketing. You could just use that portion of the program, write that off as your marketing, and you're going to close deals because of it. Just like that.
Right.
Right. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Exactly.
So
just like me. I'm using 4 or 5 of the features in Buildertrend, and that more than pays for itself just using those. I'm not doing hours logs. I'm not doing purchase orders. I'm not integrated with QuickBooks. None of that. And using maybe 25% of the capacity, and it's more than pays for itself.
Sure.
Those are great.
Go ahead.
Mm-hmm.
Go ahead.
No, go ahead and finish.
Yeah.
I was just going to say, and it's not just. It starts with the cloud-based construction project management system, but there's so many other technology tools out there that are available, right? For whether it's, for estimating or whether it's, 360-degree cameras. That's changed the way that I document all of my projects now. I can go in and, right before drywall, we go in and to document every room with a 360 camera shot. A project where you can go in for remodelers can go in with their iPad and be able to see the studs and the framing behind the walls. Mm-hmm. And there's just a lot of technology out there, and it's all there to really help not only save the time, but also the money, which is so critical. And all of that technology is available, and contractors just really, for the most part, are not utilizing it as well as they should.
On this technology thread, I'm just wondering, in your experience, if you can give maybe just 1 or 2 points of when you go to look for new technologies and adopting them, what are those crucial things you're looking for? What's got to be on your hit list of, it's got to have this, or it's got to work like that, or, what's your criteria?
Yeah. Well, I think, the thing, there's a lot of software out there, and people are always kind of coming up with new ideas. I really like to go with something that's more proven, that's got a track record and a history behind it. Because there's a lot of great ideas, but there's a lot of ideas that they don't, they're either underfunded or they just aren't developed well enough. So I don't propose being the early adopters. Leave those for some of the other people. Wait until the technology is better established before you adopt it. And then the second is to really, it's different case by case basis. So I just started using Loom now with our coaching practice. And so we're using, the Loom videos to be able to communicate with our clients. We have a set of new forms that we're doing in Wufoo. And so there's a lot of kind of programs out there, but it's using the ones that are most necessary and vital for your business. So there's not kind of a go-to list of here's, five different pieces of technology that every contractor should use. You have to kind of personalize it and decide what's going to be most effective for your unique operations in your contractor construction business.
Absolutely. Yeah, that's great advice.
Yeah, it makes sense. So the three, what are they, deadly sins?
Mortal sins.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah.
My
Mortal.
goodness. You're talking about,
Right.
Mortality here.
you're talking about my soul.
Yeah.
Yes,
All
right.
right,
Big mistake.
so the three sins would be
Always be marketing and
always-
selling.
Okay.
Always be recruiting good people.
And
Always be adopting new
Buildertrend.
Oh,
Wait, what?
nice plug there, Paul. That was good.
I was going to say, if you need business Ed, if you need me to send you business cards, I'm happy to do that. They're in the mail as we
Yeah,
speak.
right? Okay, Paul.
Start passing those things out.
Nah, it's good. It's good to be thinking about it in that big sense. All three of these things can easily help your business, and you just have to get the right mindset for that. I mean, these are great principles to base a business off of. So
Yeah, absolutely. It's great.
awesome. Well, thank you, Ed, so much for coming on the podcast today and sharing your industry experience and knowledge. We really appreciate you sharing that knowledge with our guests, and of course, wish you continued success in your business.
Well, thank you both. I really enjoyed being on the show and appreciate you.
Where can the listeners find the Zen Builder?
Yeah, if you want to follow Ed, go ahead and do that.
Yeah, so a couple of things. Well, if you're interested in wanting to learn more about my coaching services, you can go to Residential Contractor Services Group. And for those of you that don't like to type that many letters, you can actually just type in rcsg.org. And you can find more information about me and my coaching services there. And always looking for more followers on Instagram. You can find me on Instagram at the Zen Builder.
Awesome. And we'll put a link in our show notes to both of those as well. So you can go to the show notes at buildertrend.com/podcast and find those links to follow Ed there.
Love it. I feel better.
You feel better.
Do you?
It's like therapy
a
here.
little more calm, Paul?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I feel calm.
Yeah, it's good. It's good.
All right, Ed. Thanks so much.
Thanks.
All right.
All right,
Take
bye-bye.
care.
Love what you heard? Don't forget to rate and subscribe to our podcast so you can hear from more guests that will benefit your business. Also, please check out our show notes page for more information on what we discussed on this episode. You can find it at buildertrend.com/podcast. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time on The Building Code.
Appreciate you.